So I did my project on the criminal justice system and the mentally ill, and specifically how the mentally ill are treated in regards to death penalty cases and receiving the death penalty. So originally I was going to do my project on ADHD and how it affects students and learning because I have ADHD, but I thought that this was a more interesting topic because of some developments last week. So last week, Scott Panetti, a mentally ill man in Texas who was convicted of murdering his wife's parents, was supposed to be executed, but his execution was halted. And it was halted after there was a huge backlash, especially from those who were anti-death penalty, people like Ron Paul. And so I was investigating it and found out some kind of unsettling details of his case. So Scott Panetti, when he was on trial for the murder, was actually allowed to represent himself somehow, even though he's a schizophrenic man. He was diagnosed at the age of 14 and then was hospitalized 13 times at least from 1978 to 1991 and was off of his medications at the time of the murders. During his trial, in which he was wearing a purple cowboy suit, he actually tried to call Jesus, the Pope, and JFK as witnesses in his trial. So it's pretty obvious that he wasn't really in total control of his faculties when he committed the murders, but the prosecution said that he was either faking his mental illness or that he didn't actually have schizophrenia and that he was hamming it up to make a plausible defense for himself. And I think that that's kind of representative of how the mentally ill are treated in our criminal justice system, and especially when capital punishment is on the table. Because mental illness is so stigmatized and so widely misunderstood by a lot of the general public, they're not given the benefit of the doubt when it comes to different trials. And so because of that, in my research I found that at least 20 people with mental illness have been executed in the state of Texas alone. So these are people with documented mental illness, not people who were saying that they were insane just for a good plea. So again, one of the reasons why this is allowed to happen is because mental illness is so widely misunderstood, but also, again, further, because there aren't safeguards in place at the national or state levels for those who have mental illnesses. So even though the death penalty isn't standard procedure in all the 50 states, there aren't any safeguards for the mentally ill except for in the state of Connecticut. So in all other states with the death penalty, there's no legislation in place that protects those who are mentally ill or demonstrate that they are mentally ill. And so the states kind of are given discretion in where the threshold is for mental illness. So pretty standardly across the states, if the person knows that they're being charged with a crime, they understand the punishment, then they're allowed to be punished even if they have a mental illness. So if you tell somebody who has some sort of mental illness, and it could be as simple as simple mental retardation, if you tell them that they're being executed and you ask them if they know what that means, regardless of whether they actually know or not, if they say yes, you can proceed with killing them. And because a lot of times these people don't understand what's going on, they're allowed to be executed. I think this is kind of a huge miscarriage of justice because, for one thing, it makes more sense morally to just rehabilitate them, but it also makes more sense financially to rehabilitate them. And so I think that one of the topics that doesn't get a lot of play, again, is how the mentally ill are treated within our criminal justice system, and that's kind of a huge problem.